Welcome to Digital Supply Chain Institute Insights in Action. Today, I have a great pleasure to actually recontinue with one of the leaders we have started this series, 3 years ago, Craig Jones, who is now Chief Supply Chain Officer at On Running. Craig, hello and welcome again.
Nice to hear from you again, Marco.
Craig, let's go into the conversation as we always do and focus on the practicalities, if we may. I know you always focus not only on supply chain thinking, on supply chain transformation, but actually you are one of the rare, always hand-on practitioners and a person who tests, tries, pivot, and build, bring people along the way. So where I would like us to start is actually, how do you position On Supply Chain as strategic growth engine? I know that you are working, with your team on that, and it's a very unique approach in that sense. And what capabilities or design principles have been the most critical in On, allowing you to scale and without losing speed, which is always a big thing, agility and brand identity?
No, thanks, Marco, and great to connect again. I think for me, it's a great question, and we've sort of flipped it on our head a little bit here, and we don't see the supply chain purely as a back end sort of cost center. We see very much, like a frontline organization that really drives our brand promise. So we really see supply chain now about delivering on that brand promise. I think most importantly, we're using our supply chain as a competitive advantage. So where we can win on the shelf, where we can be front and center of some of those brand ambitions, supply chain is very much front and center of those conversations and those decisions. I think while the industry in general really, or often obsesses around that pure cost efficiency, we're prioritizing agility and responsiveness. And, we really deliberately choose to invest ahead of demand in our regional distribution and digital infrastructure. So this really ensures that as our global community grows, this premiumness that we're driving really drives that customer satisfaction. And hey, we're not just moving boxes, right? We're fueling the momentum of a global movement, delivering products with speed and precision that the community expects.
And I'm a witness of that, and having the opportunity to be with you and see your team in action. I think it's all about the culture you're building and the promise on both ends, promise towards the customers, as you said, like building the expectations which are always met, and on the other side, keeping the culture and the focus on the team. Now, thinking about the team's promise and identity, innovation, where does technology, data, and human judgment for you intersect in making end-to-end orchestration between macro planning on one side and then on the other side, micro level planning on the SKU demand fulfillment, like how that can work effectively? Because usually people will get one or another right. It's very hard to do the orchestration.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we did, I would say a year ago now, is we had a lot of perceptions around the supply chain. Where do we fit in regards to our fulfillment? Where does our consumer see us in regards to service and premium? And we took a hard look at ourselves and did an external and internal sort of benchmark of where we are. I think what's exciting about On is that we're only 15 years of age. So we're very, very young. So we're not extracting old tech run legacy systems, ERPs. We're very much starting from a very, very young base. And I think that is a little bit of a superpower in regards to getting ahead of our our competition. And I think not having legacy of decades of tech, we're really looking at what are the supply chain core opportunities in regards to single source of truth, and how do we want to connect demand, inventory, order management from day one. So the way that we look at this, we've sort of said, okay, number one, let's control the controllable. We can't influence the micro environment. So that's number one. Number two, we have a lot of foundational work to be done in every company. In all three brands I've worked for before, fundamentals have been sort of the secret sauce to unlocking any future automation, as it were. And then what we've said is that, hey, let's not look at demand or supply or even distribution in isolation. Let's flip it on its side and look horizontally to see what are the 4 or 5 metrics that will drive a better consumer experience. So we've really looked at sort of what are the main KPIs as a cross-functional team can we go after? Because there's no point one function or one process being ahead if the other sort of processes are behind us. We've really done that. And I would say fundamental to that, we've really been obsessed about data. Master data has been a crime and a crime scene for many years, right? But we've said, okay, what are the 5 or 6 attributes? What are the 5 or 6 data points that we need to get right? So not just master data in regards to weights, DIMs, or looking at data in regards to store addresses or wholesale accounts, but really looking at what are those attributes and what are those lockdown periods, those pencil down moments that master data becomes locked in to give us a healthy base. And I think once we do that, if you think about AI and driving, new technology, automation, this gives us a much better chance. And again, being a young company, lack of legacy, lack of old ERPs where we don't know where the wiring goes, this has given us a real advantage to leapfrog.
This is beautiful. Actually, you have a clean sheet on which you can drive the next level of growth because there are no legacy systems or commitment, and you just do a natural evolution.
Exactly right. Exactly.
So that brings me to the next question, and we cannot avoid this one. Briefly, we touched base on it once we were preparing, but having in mind the uncertainties in today's world, right, and what's going on, especially in last 2 to 3 years, particularly, how do you design a supply chain that is resilient by default? And what I mean by it is like rather than reactive, right? So how you can make also people's mind that you always think step ahead rather than wait for the things which can happen, because it's so hard and unpredictable.
It's a really interesting dilemma because, it doesn't just affect on and everything we do here, it's affecting the whole industry. And, as I said before in our previous sort of conversation, there's only so much you can control. So, really have an approach on controlling the controllable. But I think what's really important as well is we shouldn't underestimate the pressure. It puts on our people, on our teams. They're under immense pressure to deliver products, to circumnavigate the globe with freight or air freight, deal with tariffs, volatility, in regards fuel, jet fuel charges now that's impacting all of us. So, for us, it's really about being somewhat of a common influence as leaders and sort of taking it in bite-sized chunks. So if we're dealing with a problem at the moment, I think we're all in a precarious situation for the Middle East. Our number one priority, without a shadow of a doubt, is our team, is our safety of our people, and making sure we do whatever we can to make sure that support mechanism's in place. And then secondly, I would say since COVID, we've learned a lot of lessons around agility and being able to be flexible very, very quickly. I think what's, again, really important for us as a company is our spirits. And the culture is really around not building for today, but really building for the next 5, the next 10 years. So we're not doing any reactional, movements or changes in regards to the market situation. But we found that by working through our team, by being realistic on what we can influence and controlling the controllable, we've really sort of built up that resilience. And I think one important thing that we sort of tie back to athletes as well, if you think about an athlete, a high performance athlete, you have to find the time to recover. And when you're constantly in a stressful environment, Monday to Sunday, not Monday to Friday anymore, 24 hours a day, something happens. You've got to enforce on your team that break to take away, turn off the phone, turn off the email, turn off the reports from, the internet, and just take that time to recover. And we found by working with the team, building in the air coverage and making sure there's rest and recovery and building a resilient supply chain, that's how we're managing to maneuver through this. And hey, look, it's not getting any easier. I think we've just learned to build muscle to adapt to that. But fundamentally, we're in the same pattern as everybody else. But the key is our people and giving them that recovery time so that when they come back, we can continue to accelerate our agility in the supply chain.
So it's beautiful because all the best solutions always are the ones which sound very simple, right? But at the end, to come to simplicity, you need to go through a complex system to understand what works. And what you underlined related to control the controllable, focusing on the things where you can really recover so you are ready for the next round of heavy lifting is really sounds so simple, but it is the right way forward. And the last thing you said about the value of the team and the people, this brings me to the last question, with which I would like us to round up this conversation. It's actually how you are building your internal talent in On, having in mind all these things which you mentioned, to match the company's ambitions to grow, particularly in development of skill needed for orchestration, digital fluency, and resilience. Because I think with this you round up your special seven spirits, the culture, and then the need in order to be able to build that system which is lasting.
It's a great point, and I think we're not the only ones suffering in regards to upskilling and building that talent. I would say one big attraction for us is that On is the fastest growing sportswear apparel brand without a doubt across the world. With that comes a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. The brand's growing, and it's always good working in a brand that's growing. So with that attracts a lot of talent and a lot of interest in being part of that journey. So we're very fortunate that we're able to attract a lot of talent. So I think externally we have a great pipeline, and that's a testament to our founders, our leadership team, and how we've positioned On as a great company to work for. That helps with the pipeline. I would say internally, it's really about having open and honest conversations with our teams, with our leaders, and building those career plans to really be honest where they are. And hey, sometimes it's okay to have a horizontal move before you go up the ladder, as opposed to always looking to push yourself, through the career. So I think having that succession planning, having that career mapping, and having that open and honest conversation where people are, and most importantly, helping them to fill those gaps and those skills that are needed through education or through buddy systems, or just through experiences by moving people into regions or back into the global team. So we're really driving with our HR and our talent team. How do we want to continually upskill, not only internally, but how do we bring in external? So we have a great hybrid of internal talent growing through education and through assignment, and then an external pipeline coming in that can bring long-term experience that can help accelerate our growth. And then, there's a big topic around automation and AI. And we've absolutely embraced, from the founders down to the organization, AI is our DNA. Our DNA is innovation, it's product, it's design, it's performance. So having that modern company with AI being at the center of it, we're looking across our value chain and seeing, where do we have clusters of humans doing mundane tasks? We don't want them doing mundane tasks. Let's release them through automation, through AI, through machine learning, still have the human interaction to finalize a decision, but then free up, the team to work on customer facing interactions, or where we're in a complex environment at the moment dealing with, micro events. Putting the team on that where we need a bit more of a humanistic view on building agility or supporting the team in many ways. So there's a couple of layers we're working through, but fundamentally we are On because of our team. Our brand's everything, our product's everything, but our team, through our culture, through our behaviors and our spirits, is the secret sauce, right, that drives the company's growth.
And it's beautiful to end up the conversation, this way, because especially on the side of new technology and AI, there's so much conversation about human value in it. And from everything you shared in today's conversation, for On, it's all about human and internal and external talent. And it's actually just building up the layer of technology to even support and accelerate the growth you are going for. So it's really a beautiful way to round up things. And I look forward checking back again in like 6 to 8 months and then seeing how the things you shared are actually progressing. Because what I know with you and what I'm sure with On, the things we will learn will be things which comes directly from the battlefield on one side, and it comes from all the vision you shared and practice you were brave to embrace. So thank you very much, Craig, for being with us.
Great to see you again and speak to you again, and look forward to seeing you again on the circuit.
Thank you very much, Craig, and big kudos to you and your team. And we can end being all on clouds at the moment. This was another DSCI Insights in Action episode. Thank you.